Good morning to all. Rori as mentioned. Today we'll be talking a little about my CAS project from last year, which was, well, it was linked to human rights advocacy, and it was the idea of, well, what we call polished people. Now, to give you a little an idea, it's a little bit of a spin-off off of a campaign that's been going on around the world and primarily in the US, known as Polished Man. And the idea is that people, specifically men, the campaign was targeted at men, would paint one nail on their hand. And this would be sort of a representation of the 1 in 5 children around the world who suffer from physical harassment in some way or other. And so, sort of for background, this is the site itself. It was a campaign. And I worked, well, my project based off of this and the idea. And so I shifted it slightly to be polished people with the idea that it would be more inclusive. This is the idea that you'd be painting the nails to turn each person with a painted nail into an advocate, in a sense. So the idea is that you're drawing an attention to one little painted nail on a hand that sparks a whole conversation on, okay, why do you have a painted nail? What does it represent? Why specifically one nail and not any other? And so on and so forth. And so, I guess, well, the big question, why polished people, polished man, is the idea of inclusion. And I felt that the idea of advocacy shouldn't only be a select group of people advocating in their community, but also getting a whole community to try and advocate for something and spread larger. So starting with the student body itself and sort of expanding bigger into parents and people that you meet randomly and such like that. And so, well, the plan in itself was a sequence of things, starting primarily, Matisse and I, Matisse being my partner, we set up a sort of 3-stage plan with the human rights advocacy group. Phase 1 was sort of, well, let me say that this is actually a plan. We'll get to why the plan didn't work out after, but stage 1 was the collection of polishes and stuff like that. In a sense, the Polished Man sort of project is a fundraising project, but we wanted to break away from that idea. Human rights, like we were saying, it's an advocacy group, and we felt that it would be more pertinent on this campus, especially where we may not see, well, let me say we don't have blatant violations of human rights. It would be more important for us to turn students like us who are privileged and have opportunity into advocates and who can then go on to inform others, be it their siblings, people you meet, and so on and so forth. And so, like I said, the first phase was to collect polishes. The idea that getting students around the campus to donate random nail polishes, especially girls who, I mean, I know a bottle of nail polish doesn't always finish. My mom would leave some half empty or colors that she'd get bored of. And so the idea was to collect those up, and then we'd have one event, and an idea that we'd set up shop somewhere in the hotel, and we're not getting people to pay, we're not asking people to come up, we're just asking for them a little time, 5 minutes, to explain the cause, like you're saying, and to get a nail painted. And it's something that simple that we felt could be powerful in the long run. And so to do that, well, like I said, we focused on advocacy, and we wanted to make the distribution of information easy. So from phase 1, well, phase 1 tied into phase 2, the idea of pamphlets and information, of flyers and posters, stuff to, again, spread the word and give people information. Like we were saying, if you want to turn people into advocates, then you also want to give them the resources for when someone else asks, okay, where can I find out more? Where can I learn about the topic? If I want to donate, where can I go? And also, that would be the big link to the original Polished Man sort of movement and idea, and that was where we were going with it. And yet, like I was saying, it's something casual, a painted nail, it's something small, but again, it could be something quite big on the long run. We chose the human rights advocacy group because, again, it's human rights advocacy. Like we're saying, 1 in 5 children are abused physically, and so that representation, that is a denial of a human right in the sense of one's personal space and one's, of course, sort of integrity and such. And so we felt that going with the human rights group, a service that we were both, Matisse and I, already a part of, was a big step forward. It turned out actually that in doing so, we exposed ourselves to a lot of different obstacles, which we'll talk about in a bit. But a little more about the human rights brief. I mean, I'm sure you've heard about the human rights advocacy group on campus, but again, it's one of the most, well, I found in the time that I was there, it was one of the most difficult services to be a part of on campus, simply because, again, this is a very privileged and diverse campus where sort of the relations between us are quite positive, and some of the, I suppose, some of the more detrimental things that would happen are quite difficult to get to. Yeah. So what went well and what didn't? Well, the big things that sort of put a block on our plan going into action as soon as possible was, I suppose, a lack of support, but also a lack of communication. We found that we had set out a very good plan for ourselves in terms of, okay, we want to do this by here between the two of us, but there was a gap in communication between us and the human rights advocacy group, which in the end was pretty detrimental to the project. In reality, we did need the support in terms of not only sort of drawing the attention, but also some of the work that was going on in terms of getting our flyers, building up the sort of image and persona around it. We also found that in a sense, we got sidetracked in the advocacy group as a whole and what it is. We found that last year we were far more fighting for the position of the advocacy group on campus, in terms of its renown, in terms of what is known about the human rights advocacy group, because we don't speak about it much on campus, but yet it is an idea that is quite pertinent and something that could be quite reliable in the future. On the other hand though, the planning that we did do was well done enough that given the opportunity, we can set it into motion. And so, well, I myself now have been looking at the opportunity of getting some help as well from the advocacy group again, but as a smaller project, I found that the pressure of focusing as a CAS project and trying to relate that to the advocacy group is what made it more difficult to get it done, I suppose. And looking back, I feel that if I could do the project again, I would have assembled a much smaller team, tops 4 or 5 people, and tried to do it in a shorter space of time and tried not to make it focused on the human rights advocacy group, but more focused on the project itself and what it can be individually. I also found that it's important to work with someone who has synergy with you. I suppose as you guys go into getting ready for your CAS projects, that's something that'll be important, because again, you find yourself, the CAS project becomes something that will take up a lot of your time, and doing it with someone who's you relate to and you work well with is always important. I think at this point, I would relish the chance to put this into motion. I think it's still something that can be really pertinent, and it's still an idea that I really like, the idea of turning our whole student body into advocates, or at least even the high school. We have a lot of well-educated and well-knowing young people, so I think it could work out well for us. I suppose that's about it. Of course, my CAS project is still something that's on the way, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions. But yeah, if you just look out for me, look out for the project coming up soon. Because yeah, semester 2 is a thing.
How do you link your CAS project with the IB learning profile?
The one thing, I suppose the big one that we really focused on was communicators.
Okay.
It's the idea of, again, turning our whole high school community, into, I guess, a communication platform, and asking people to sort of also be risk takers. And when someone asks you about a painted nail, particularly guys, there's always that stereotype that guys shouldn't have painted nails. And so I guess that's what gives the Polished Man project a very powerful symbol. But I felt that even a different kind of colored nail on a girl or a single nail could draw enough attention and get people out of their shells, spark a conversation with someone that's very different, which in a sense is risk-taking, but also improves all of our communicating skills, makes us different guys.
All right. Any question to Rori? All right. Well done, Rori.